All right, I'm either gonna wear transmission fluid or I'm not gonna. It's out. What's up, Brite Nation? Today's a very special day because I am not gonna be working on that. I'm gonna be working on that. Phoebes is gonna get some well-deserved attention finally. The stepchild has been doing phenomenal, so now we're gonna give Phoebes some attention, so hopefully we can get her out on the trail soon. So what we're gonna do today is work on this. So this is the rear diff out of there. I don't know if you remember, she's been sitting out for a while, but it's missing some pieces in there. Supposed to be some gears and things in there, which are no longer in there.
What'd you do?
I broke it, I think.
Big pop from the rear end, unfortunately.
Not good. Not good. All right, let's see what's in there. Oh, found the rest of the parts. Yep. I sent her a little too hard, but this is an Ashcroft ATB, automatic torque biasing rear diff. The reason I did not go with the air locker in the rear is because, believe it or not, the Land Rover has a really good traction control system, and I didn't want to mess with it too much. So we got an ATB for the rear. Now I did get an air locker for the front, which is also an Ashcroft unit, which we'll be doing as soon as I get the front one out. I got brand new 437s for the 35s, and you're like, why didn't you go 488s? Well, here's why. Because the stock Land Rover transfer case in final drive is actually underdriven. It's 1.2 to 1. So the calculations come out to be about a 437 is about all you need to run like a 35 on a Land Rover. That's pretty much the biggest gear they run, because look at this cute little guy. Look how cute this little tiny pinion is. It's so cute. So this is why they only run up to a 437 usually. They do have some custom larger ones, but I don't need all that. I'm just trying to get it roadworthy again. So I got 437s, Ashcroft ATB, and that old piece of junk. So we're gonna gut this and we're gonna get all this installed. It should be pretty self-explanatory. New Timken bearings, the only way to go. So I got Timkens and a new pinion seal. And then I'm gonna get her put back together so I can drive it, and then we'll drive it all the way around to this side of the shop. We'll get the stepchild out of here, and then I'm gonna pull the transfer case out of Phoebes because I have some goodies for a new transfer case. Stock, but new. And while it's on the rack, we'll get the front end taken out of it so that we can get the front diff all installed. Busy week, because Kevin just informed me that we might be going out next weekend, do a little camping in Utah, possibly cruise over to Colorado or whatnot. So I have like 6 days to get this bad boy back together. So here we go. All right, so now that she's been freshly hot tanked, we're gonna go ahead and put the diff together. Ha! So we gotta put bearings on this bad boy right here. We get the ring gear put on there. We gotta put races in this guy and hope that I get it right. So the pinion depth. This is the little guy that came out of there. So we're gonna stuff this back in there behind the big race and hope that the pinion depth is right when we put it all together. Otherwise we gotta take it all the way back apart and reshim this, but I'm thinking this one's right. So here we go. Should have started that process a long time ago, but you freeze the races, heat up the case, and the races usually just fall right in. Well, the outside one went about halfway in, and then I had to, it caught up the temperature because it wasn't frozen enough. So let's see what the inside one does. Well, that one was almost all the way in. It just had to go in just a little bit more, but that ring in there is tight. So that works really well if you don't want to hammer in your races. Just throw them in the freezer for a while. Make sure you do that first, like when you first get them, so that they're nice and really cold.
So while Chris is working on his diff, I'm also having to work on this diff. So we pulled the cover off here, and it looks like we do have a thick cut gear. There's thick cut gears, thin cut gears. Now this is gonna be a little confusing for a second, but try to stay with me. We have a 5/13 gear ratio, and it's a thick cut gear. When you open it, you'll see that the gear is quite thick. We are going to get away from the Eaton E-locker. Dynatrac is no longer using Eaton E-lockers, only using A or B air lockers. So we got 3 trails out of it. It's skipped a couple teeth. It's no good. So we need to get an ARB air locker. So I went over to Northridge. We were trying to figure out which air locker we need. And if you look, the RD 166 was for let me just pull it up. So the RD 166 is for 456 and up numerically, and we have 513s, so you'd think we'd want that one. They also have an RD 167, which is for 410 and down numerically. Well, we have 513, so it should for surely be the RD 166, but being that it's a thick cut gear means that it would actually be the RD 167, the 410 and down. And I didn't know this. The only reason I know this is because I got online and I started looking up thick cut gears, and when I was going through different websites, that's what I found was when you have 488 or 513 or 529 thick cut gear, you have to use a carrier for 410 and down. So none of that makes sense. There's nothing that tells you anything like that without actually just knowing or doing this all the time or having to research it. But why would you even need to research that? You would just get online and be like, oh, I got 513 gears. This says 456 and up. That's what I need. But I would have ordered the wrong one. So luckily I asked some friends, got online and looked, and I'm hoping we're right. But per the online, even though we have 513s, we need the 410 and down. So that's what we're going to order. So it is in stock, and we're going to add it to cart. Here's our price. Put in code stepchild, and there you go. Save $61.55. Proceed to checkout. It's also free shipping. So not only do you save that money for the stepchild code, but you also get free shipping. So now that that's on its way, guess we'll get back to Chris.
So while Kevin was doing all that, I already put it together because that's how long it took me. So the backlash is set, a little bit in there. That guy's all in there. Everybody's happy. Look at this pattern, looks pretty good. Bam, bam. So now we're just gonna go stuff it in that. All right, so she's in, got a drive shaft back on it, got the wheels back on it. So now we're gonna go put it on the lift, which means I have to go move the stepchild, park the stepchild outside for a few days until that diff gets here that Kevin wants me to put in. I'm working on tubes this week. Just driving around the house with just the rear in diff lock, so that, because I don't have a front drive shaft, the acceleration is already better, and all I did was drive around the house. It feels like she's gonna get out of her own way now, so this is exciting. So the plan now is to get her in the air, drop the T-case, take the front end apart, get the front diff out, get the T-case out, and I have a bunch of new parts to put in this T-case because it definitely feels like there's so much play. But I have a new one that we'll rebuild and get that in, so we can go wheeling this weekend. Got the front end apart, front diff is out of it, and it is on the bench. Ta-da! And we're already halfway back together because it's just the same as the rear. It's actually identical to the rear, it's just that these gears are cut the other way. That's how Land Rover does it. But in the front, we're gonna put an Ashcroft air locker. So this is an air locker. It's kind of like an ARB, but the ARB uses the backside of the bearing and the brass line to put air pressure in through this and lock it. But this one's on the outside, so it's right there. It uses this whole thing as the air locker part, and then it locks up against the gears that are in here. And again, we're going to match that with 438s just like we did the rear. So I'm going to finish putting this together, and then we'll work on getting that T-case out of there and get that on the bench and torn apart just like the rear. All together, got the airline in, and we've already tested it, so it's up through the housing. Comes out this cool little fitting right there. So we've already tested it, and the collar does move over. It's just like an ARB, sort of, not really. Same principle, different stuff inside there, but that's how it works. So now we're gonna get stuffed in there. There she is. She's back together. Just got a diff back in it. The front end's all back together, but it's getting late tonight. Tomorrow morning we will drop the T-case and we will swap all that stuff over and put a new T-case in here. Well, a new rebuilt T-case. So we'll be right back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're back. So today we're going to get the transfer case out of the Phoebes, get that on the bench, tear that apart, and show you how a LT230 transfer case works. Get her back up in the air, get that T-case out. Alright, so we got the drive lines off, we have the exhaust off, but you'll see these guys don't want to come off this cross member. So it looks like I'm going to be making a new cross member because I broke these two, I broke those two, and that's one of the only cross members left under here that holds this chassis together. Not really, but I mean, there's plenty of motor mounts and stuff, but looks like I'm gonna have to cut this brackets off and I'll weld up something and we'll make a new cross member under here, but it's gonna come after we get the T-case out. So now I'm just gonna get the plasma out and literally just cut the rest of this mount off because I can't get to those and I'm not gonna waste all my time drilling them out either. I'm just gonna cut them suckers off and I'll make new ones. So that's in the books for today. So we gotta drop this is my e-brake. This is a Land Rover e-brake. This mount stays. Yes, it's a stripped bolt. I just noticed that. I didn't do that, so that's great. This is part of the trans. This one is part of the T-case. So I'll get this bolt out. We'll support the trans, and then I'll take the rest of the T-case out and get that on the bench. Probably not gonna fix that right now. All right, well, let's get the rest of this T-case out of here and cut this cross member out. So we're gonna get the Miller 625 out, cut this guy out, made a little grounding strap right there. Then we'll just cut this guy right off so we can get this T-case out of here. All right, well that worked out really well. The frame didn't pull in or pull out when I got it cut off, so that's a good sign. We'll get that cleaned up later, but right now we're gonna finish getting this T-case out. Then I'll build the cross member bases, and then when we put the T-case back in, then we'll build the cross member. Oh, you're a stud. Oh shit. Of course you're bigger. Ah! The struggle is real, my friends. The struggle is real. All right, I'm either gonna wear transmission fluid or I'm not gonna. It's out. So I got her all cleaned up because it was really dirty and you didn't want to see that. So this is an 04 and this is an 03. As you can see, this is where the diff lock mechanism actually is, and it's not in the 03. It's not in the 2000 to 2003, I think. So the 2001, 2, and 3 don't have the diff lock actuator in the front cover. But there is a diff in here, and there is also a diff in here. They got away from it. I don't even know why, but there's missing 2 sensors and the actual lock and fork. So all I have to do is swap this cover onto this one, and I should have a fresh diff because this one's definitely whooped. And I also have billet cross pins and stuff for this one, which I'm going to go dig out, and I have all new seals and gaskets. So we're going to take this thing apart, clean it, and then put that front cover on this T-case and put it back in. Oh, look at all the brass. Oh, that's fun. All right, look at all the good stuff in there. That's all brass. I'm assuming that's all from the diff lock because I've abused that diff lock pretty bad. And then you can see this one, totally clean. So that's again why I'm gonna go with this one. right, so lastly, we just pulled this big pin and pulled this gear set out. This is the one that was in the Rover, and this is the one that I brought with me. This is a 2003. Now, I remember pulling this out of the vehicle that I pulled it out of, and that bolt right there didn't come out very well. So that hole is stripped, and the bolt was really long. Consequently, they ran it right into this gear through the side of the case. So this is the good gear, and this is my gear. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean that stack back up and actually put it in here. It's the same gear, it's the same gear set, so we don't have this. And now that I'm thinking about it, that hole is pretty, you know, it's just a hole. That one is still threaded, so I actually might use this case, the guts out of here, put them in this case, use my front cover, which is this one, but I'll use the guts out of this one. So yeah, we're gonna make a good case. Now we can take off the front covers. Pretty sure this is just all come off. Oh, there's some brassy bits in there. Awesome. Has the exact same diff. So all it is missing is in here is the actuator to actually lock this. This guy should just come right out. Like so. There you have it, folks. All right, so as you can see, this is a 2003. There is no selector and no shift fork in the 2003. Whereas the 2004 has the shaft with the shift fork and the selector ring on there. And what that does is it moves it up onto here and allows this front output shaft to be locked to this diff when you put it in diff lock. That is the only difference. And as you can see, the 2003 has the exact same setup. It's literally just missing the fork that locks the front drive shaft to this diff. That is why we're going to use this whole gut in the 2004 and then put the front cover back on, because like I said, that is just a hollowed out hole. So we're going to put a hodgepodge of parts back together, and then we're going to clean all of this stuff and put the best T-case back together. So now I get to go back outside to my hot tank, although it is cooling off, so it's cooling off tank, and we'll get these parts all cleaned up, get them back on the bench so that we can reassemble this. Oh, but before I reassemble it, I have some pretty cool parts, but we'll do that later. So before we put it together, one of the last things we're gonna do is I have billet parts for the inside of this diff. So first off, we gotta get it apart. And then we're gonna open this up so I can show you the cool stuff inside. So here's what it looks like inside. It's got two separate shafts that are split down the middle so that they can overlap into the cross gear. But what I went and did is they have a billet one, or a machined cross shaft. Now this is way stronger, and what happens is one of these shafts ends up breaking and then your gears get mangled and things happen. Also got new shims. This will be brand new with this piece of this cross shaft in it, and then I'll put it back together so it replaces all of this. These don't look that bad anyway. They're still look like they got factory surface still on them, but we're gonna change these out because I have new ones. So ta-da, installed. And we'll just take these out, and we just take this with all the bushings on it and the sleeves, and just drop it right on top. We really don't need this because what this does is hold the old pins in the diff. This won't come apart. Swap this one out, make sure the sleeve's not in there, put this guy, the wear shim is in there, and then we just put this guy back on top. And just in case y'all are wondering, I just popped the top off of the one that was in Phoebes, and this is what's left of those shims, the guys that are supposed to be here that are no longer there. Yeah, these bushing things that are not there, this is where all that play comes from. They move around a lot. To be fair, I've driven it quite a few times with only one drive shaft in it, and this is an all-wheel drive T-case, so in order to do that you have to have it in diff lock, and then once it's in diff lock, only one side of these spider gears is getting all of the force and the bang and the acceleration and the decel and the XL and the decel, so it's literally beating these gears up. That's why I have had another T-case laying around because I knew someday it wasn't gonna make it. But thankfully she made it this far, and now I've swapped it out and it's got new gears, the cross shaft, and now we're gonna put it back together. All new seals, all new gaskets, all new everything, and everything will be clean, and hopefully I don't blow it up when we go camping next weekend. All right, so we got everything cleaned and everything, just the main stack is back in. Diff lock is in, so all of this mechanism is back in. So this is all the one that came off the 04. This is the 04 case. This is the 04 stack with that new cross pin in it and just the rear housing. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the old 03, screw that thing. We're gonna put that guy in there, and then we're gonna put all the new 03 back housing and stuff, because all this was really good shape. So everything will look much prettier than it did before. I don't know if you can see, but before we go putting this T-case back in there, I had to clean that bracket off for the subframe connector that was in here and come up with something new. So there's the subframe connector, and I did cut off everything that was on it. This is the only piece of box tubing that I had laying around that was big enough, so I basically just cut it in half and then cut it short enough to do that. So I can only get 3 bolts back in it, but it's better than nothing, and this is way bigger than what was under there. So I'm gonna use bigger bolts than what was under there. So we'll just do 3 and 3, should be plenty. So I'm just gonna pop some holes in this, we'll bolt it up, and we'll stick it under there, and then we'll tack it in. All right, so we got that cross member drilled. I got nuts welded onto the backside, and it's back up here. Fits amazing, and what we are gonna do is we're gonna move it back, because I didn't show you before, but it kind of half covered this hole, which made that a real pain in the butt to service. So we're gonna move it back some so that you can get to that guy. Plenty of clearance everywhere like before, and we'll get this guy tacked up in there. Actually, you know what? We're just gonna burn it in. All right, got her back on the ground. She's back together. Got the bars in it, the drive lines in it, put fluids in the diff, and I put it on the ground. Now we're gonna go drive it. I'm gonna go drive it around and feel how much more power she has. She doesn't have any more power, but she has a lot more gear, so that should help a lot. And then when I get back, I got one last thing to do, and that is to hook up the air compressor to the locker and make the locker work. Then we'll be good to go. Test drive was successful. I did get the locker air lined up, so the compressor is under the seat. There's the compressor. There's the locker. And they work beautifully. Some of you might be disappointed. Some of you might not even have known. But I got rid of the drawer system. Drawer system is out. I cut the whole top off that whole rack. I went and got a piece of birch ply, and the whole top is birch plied. Super soft. It's cabinet grade. It's pretty awesome. Oh yeah, I got the light. So. There you go, it's all lit up. I did that because I now have somebody else camping with me all the time. So I have a twin air mattress that fits in here. It fits all the way to the seats, all the way to the back doors, very comfortably. This is the shift pod for Kevin and Brittany. I am bringing the ARB, because Kevin decided to spring on me yesterday. Hey, let's go camping this weekend. So I've been in a little bit of a rush the last 24 hours, trying to get all the rest of the stuff done. The ARB is back in, currently at 49 degrees. So we got a couple more, probably an hour or two before that's down to 31. Everything is cleaned out. Everything is ready to go. This will be her maiden voyage trip, and you'll see that in the video coming up, I'm sure, because it's going to be fun. I'm not exactly sure where we're going. Kevin assures me that it's going to be awesome. So I'm pretty excited. So we'll see how this thing does on the trail for the first time in a year since EJS when I broke it. Well, I guess that was like 6 months ago, 7 months ago. I don't know. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And remember, you can get all your Lite Brite merch and decals at litebritstudios.com. And I will see you on the trail. No. And we're back. So today we get to do the transfer case. So we're gonna get this bad boy back in the air, and that's terrible. All right, so we got that bar. Oh, the lens is terribly shitty.